Welcome to Soccer in 60, presented by the Empire Strykers. Get ready for your weekly look at all the pro soccer teams in Greater Los Angeles. We've got all the news and analysis you need, from LAFC and the LA Galaxy to the Empire Strykers, Angel City FC, and Orange County Soccer Club. Now, buckle up and enjoy Soccer in 60. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Soccer in 60, brought to you by SAC Health System. We are your local footy fix here in the Greater Los Angeles area, so we're here for you to scratch that itch. My name's Christian Phileman, better known as Philly. Tim Kolotz, Timmy K, he's off this week as he's enjoying the Bourbon Trail in Kentucky, which, by the way, if you ever get a chance, totally worth going to all those distilleries. But if you can hit all 46, make sure you got somebody with you that's driving. I recommend Maker's Mark and Woodford Reserve. They're both pleasant, but that's for another pod. Joining me in his place, though, is a man familiar to the LA soccer podcast scene, one half of the very popular LAFC show, Defenders of the Bank. I give you the scarf, J.R. Liebert.
I was a little worried, thought you were going to say I was familiar with the Bourbon Trail there. I've never been myself, but I'm excited to one day go. And yes, Philly, happy to join you here on Soccer in 60. Can't wait to talk about soccer across the Southland. Certainly an interesting week across the board.
Absolutely. And we got a ton to talk about today, as always. We're going to give you the regulars, but we're going to change the order up a little bit. We're going to talk to you about LAFC. Then we're going to go into our awesome interview with our special guest, Eleri Earnshaw, the assistant coach for Angel City. We'll talk Empire Strykers. Then we'll talk about the Galaxy. And then Orange County, and cap it all off with Best 11. But before we do that, let's get crack-a-lacking on our sponsorships, because we got bills to pay. Omnitrans. Experience the thrill of game day with Omnitrans in partnership with the Strykers. Be in the heart of the action at Toyota Arena and let us take care of the ride. Heading to the game, hop aboard Omnitrans for a seamless journey to Toyota Arena. Simply download the Transit app to catch your bus and enjoy a stress-free trip on the Strykers. All right, well, with that being said, to quote one of my favorite local social media influencers, LA in a minute, let's get into it. Scarf, LAFC, Montreal, third meeting between the two clubs, last one since 2019. It was sort of a meh game for the black and gold as they took on the second worst team in Major League Soccer a week after they tied the worst team in Major League Soccer.
Philly, I feel like I'm watching Groundhog Day. If I see another 2-2 match, I'm going to absolutely lose it. Our fourth 2-2 draw in our last 6 matches, and you said it. This one coming against the Eastern Wooden Spoon Dwellers, Montreal, in Montreal, just the second time that we have ever gone to Montreal. Unfortunately, the first time we didn't come away with a win. I guess, Philly, the silver lining is going down 2-0 to a club that's only scored 8 goals all season, is that we came back, LAFC did anyway, to make it 2-2. Good things to take away from the second half, not as much from the first.
No, not as much from the first either. And quick note about Montreal. Did you know they used to refer to it as Sin City? Yeah, Montreal is a fun place. A lot of bachelorette and bachelor parties go there. But during Prohibition, they had a sick nightlife, so they called it Sin City. I think the first time Vegas was called that was sometime in 1963. But yeah, Montreal, Sin City. Who would have thunk it? But you're right, having to play on the back bender, Giacomo Veroni in the 5th minute, then a soft penalty on Denny Bawanga. Then Prince Owusu, the German Bundesliga, former Bundesliga, gets the go-ahead. Down 2-0, LAFC conceding first. Are you kidding me? We know what LAFC's record is when they score. When they don't score first, they don't win. They don't freaking win. But luckily that they managed to get a tie. Marky Delgado would score, courtesy off of a dime from Nathan Ordaz, and then we would get another goal. Could this be it? Could this be where the floodgates open? How apropos that a Frenchman in French-speaking Montreal, by the way, if you can't speak French in Montreal, they look down on you. In Quebec, they won't even look at you. But how apropos is it that Olivier Giroud got one? And honestly, an easy one. I think he would have had to work really hard to not have scored that goal.
Listen, we've seen Olivier miss ones from closer this season, so it was a good thing that Olivier able to put that away in the 77th. a much needed point from that result. But you're absolutely right. Maybe it was all the French signs around the stadium. Maybe it was all the French speaking going on inside Stade Saputo. Maybe it helped Olivier Giroud feel a little bit more comfortable. Hugo Lloris had a perfectly fine game. Denis Bouanga didn't do as much as we would have liked. So the other French-speaking compatriots didn't really pull their weight until Olivier Giroud in the 77th. Look, I think one of the things that may go untalked about in that match is how many times Nathan Ordaz, the young kid, continued to put LAFC in excellent space in his 70-minute shift that he had. And then you bring in a guy the quality of Cengiz Under. Look, you and I will have another conversation on this pod, I'm sure, about whether or not to keep Cengiz Under for the second half of the season and how much that'll cost. But if not for Cengiz putting that ball into a difficult spot, Denis making the run, and then something we love to see, Olivier Giroud making that secondary run where he's able to put it away, the level of talent coming off the bench, Cengiz Under and Olivier Giroud coming in about the 70th to really put the clamps down for LAFC on offense is a luxury that I don't know how many teams in MLS have ever had.
Now, I mean, from the Pine Pony, as far as the forwards are concerned, we're all right. I don't want to call it an embarrassment of riches, but we're all right. But Cengiz Under, that's going to be a tough one. His loan expires on June 30th. I'm not sure we're going to meet Fenerbahce's price. But anyway, LAFC ends up continuing with their unbeaten streak to 8 games with that 2-2 tie. 6 wins, 4 losses, 5 draws on the season. 3 wins, no losses, and 5 draws in the last 8 matches. But I can't help but feel that is a loss. Now, there's a lot of midweek action that happened today in Major League Soccer. And by today, I actually mean yesterday, because we're recording, of course, on this Thursday. Actually, I'm lying to you. This is a pre-record. This is Wednesday night, so I do mean today. LAFC was supposed to play Sporting Kansas City, but that game got rescheduled, as did LAFC's Saturday match on May 31st against Colorado, because they're going to be in the FIFA Club World Cup play-in match against Liga MX side Club America at BMO at 7:30. May the 31st. Club America recently coming off their Clausura. Leg 2 loss this past Sunday to Toluca. Biggest match in LAFC history due to the financial benefits that come with participating in this Club World Cup. We're looking at north of 10 million just to be a part of this, and just maybe playing in a group with Flamingo, Espérance Sportive de Tunis, chairman, Scarf's favorite player, Gigi Buffon, Chelsea, and possibly us. But we have more on that later. But the big news, Scarf, while we still have some time about LAFC, finally, The Rock has not come back to Los Angeles, but finally, Carlos Vela. We have an update on him. Carlos Vela on his social media retired. I mean, we knew it was coming, but now it's officially official.
Yeah, look, LAFC's greatest player in their short club history, especially obviously the first 7 seasons. You cannot have a story about LAFC that isn't led by Carlos Vela and his exploits. The greatest single season in MLS regular season history, 2019, 34 goals, 15 assists, 49 goal contributions in all. Fun fact, I own the kit that he wore in that last game where he scored the hat trick against Timmy Howard. It's in my closet, ready to be framed.
You don't wear it?
Why don't I wear it? Because it'll fit around my left arm. Look, it's one of those things that we were all kind of waiting to see. The questions were starting to be asked. Why isn't the club saying something? Why isn't Carlos saying something? And then Carlos and the club having that soccer program going on in the next couple of weeks, a soccer academy little thing. It just made it a little bit weirder that we hadn't addressed it. And don't worry, Galaxy supporters, we're going to be talking about Galaxy in just a little bit after we get through some other clubs. But it was finally time. Carlos Vela announcing his retirement. An interesting question that I saw posed on social media. The Mount Rushmore of MLS, I think 3 of the names are firmly planted on there, and Landon Donovan, David Beckham, and Chris Wondolowski. The question became, does Carlos Vela make that 4th spot? An interesting point to debate for sure.
An interesting one, and one that we could honestly spend an entire podcast doing. But the impact that he had here in Los Angeles, unbelievable. If there is a statue that needs to come out for a player that donned a kit in the greater LA area, in LA, it would be Carlos Vela. Let's also not forget he was the fastest player in MLS history to reach 75 goals and 50 assists. He's going to remain he's going to stay on. He's going to be the club's first, what they call black and gold ambassador. And he's going to be celebrated at BMO during Noche de Carlos Vela on September the 21st versus Real Salt Lake. If it wasn't for Carlos, LAFC is not where it is right now. The fact that he took a chance on a project unknown with a team that he had no concept what they can do speaks volumes. So thank you, Carlos, for your efforts. And we're looking forward to seeing you and celebrating you on the 21st. All right, moving on. National Core, one of the nation's largest not-profit affordable housing developers and proud sponsor of your MASL team, the Empire Strykers. At National Core, they believe that soccer has the power to transform lives just like they do. They believe in building strong communities on and off the field. To learn more about National Core and their mission, go to nationalcore.org. Now, folks, we know we normally do the Galaxy pod, the segment at this point. We're going to do Angel City now. We're going to do Empire Strikers. Then we're going to do the Galaxy. We have a great interview with Angel City assistant coach Eleri Earnshaw. But real quick, Scarv, let's talk about the game against Racing Louisville. The youngsters managed to find the back of the net again. Riley Tiernan, Alyssa Thompson scoring, but a back and forth endeavor. They would end up losing at home, the Racing Louisville.
Yeah, an up and down season continues for Angel City. They won their 2 in a row and then have now lost their next 2 in a row. And of course, kind of playing with two minds, one always on the recovery of Savy King since that horrific incident that happened there on the pitch. But a 3-2 loss to what became a 10-woman Racing Louisville team after a PK by Alyssa Thompson was the 100th goal in club history. It brought it to 3-2, but unfortunately, with about 15, 20 minutes or so remaining in the match, Angel City couldn't capitalize on being a player up. Several good chances near the death, but you're absolutely right. It's the young kids leading the way. Riley Tiernan, Alyssa Thompson. We all know about Kennedy Fuller and Giselle Thompson. That's where to look if you want to get excited about women's soccer in the Southland. As much as we love our grizzled veterans on the team, it's the youth that is paving the way for the run that Angel City have had so far this season.
100%. Now, it's international break. Angel City won't be back in action until June the 7th, where they will be hosting the Chicago Stars. And speaking of international break, 8 ACFC players named the national team rosters. This is amazing. So you've got Angelina Anderson, USA U23s. You got Kennedy Fuller, USA U20s. Alana Kennedy for Australia. You got Bray Norris for Mexico's U23s. You got Casey Fair, Korea. You got Alyssa and Giselle, Team USA, and Riley Tiernan, USA 23s. That's awesome stuff. Alyssa and Giselle will be available for selection. The U.S. has a couple friendly matches going on May the 31st. They're going to be in St. Paul, Minnesota to take on China, and then on June the 3rd to take on Jamaica in St. Louis, Missouri. All right, more on that later, but let's head to our awesome conversation that we had with Angel City assistant coach Eleri Earnshaw. Take it away, interview. Our guest is a key member of the Angel City technical staff, having served as interim head coach during a pivotal moment in club's history. A former Wales international, she played for Arsenal FC before moving stateside and starring at Iona College, Go Gales, as well as Long Island University. She later built her coaching resume, including at the collegiate level, and led Gotham FC Reserves to a WPSL division title, earning Coach of the Year honors in the process. Since joining Angel City in 2022, she helped guide the team through major transitions and remains deeply committed to growing women's soccer in Greater LA and beyond. It is such a joy to have with us Angel City's own Eleri, that's the way you'd pronounce it here, but Eleri, as you would pronounce it in Wales, Earnshaw. Coach, welcome to Soccer in 60.
Thank you, and thank you for pronouncing my name the Welsh way. Really
I
impressive.
didn't butcher it. I hope I'm not going to upset anybody in Cardiff or anywhere else.
No. You rolled your R's perfectly.
Excellent. All right. It helps to speak a couple languages, I suppose. Coach, let's get right into things. Angel City is coming off an extremely eventful past 8 months or so. After the change in ownership, the club parted with its head coach and its GM before bringing in a new sporting director / GM. a new assistant GM, a new CRO, and most recently, a new head coach. I wonder how you've experienced this highly unusual period of massive changes. Did you ever wonder where things were headed, or did you always have a sense that there was a plan behind everything?
Yeah, I always had a sense that there was a plan behind everything, and it's just taken some time to get there. Obviously, those changes that you just listed, they didn't all happen at once. They were incremental, and there were some that kind of took us in one direction and then quickly took us in a different direction. But you've covered the league and the game long enough. You know that to succeed in this business, you've got to be adaptable. You've got to be ready for change at any minute. And you've just got to be able to put your best foot forward, whatever that change may look like.
Absolutely. I mean, with the changes, Angel City's new sporting director / GM, Mark Parsons, had previously held positions as GM and as a head coach in the NWSL. His assistant, Matt Wade, joins after a successful tenure with men's side Feyenoord in Rotterdam, Holland. What's it been like working with those two over the past 2 months? And do you feel that Parsons' background as a coach is an added asset in dealing with the technical staff and making player personnel decisions?
Yeah, he's extremely well versed in the league, and it's obviously a league that's evolving every single year. So I'm sure it's different now than when he was last in it, even though it was a short time ago. But his global experience with the game too, having managed players of such high caliber like Lindsay Horan and Christine Sinclair, his experience in the NWSL and global football is massive when it comes to managing us as a technical staff and the broader group of performance staff and players as well. Matt's experience with Feyenoord is obviously very different, but extremely beneficial. And you see them both, and Mark Wilson, the technical director, you see the three of them kind of debating and challenging and all guided by the same principles, all guided by the same kind of North Star. But to have the collection of the three of their experiences is really pivotal.
Absolutely. Now, 10 games into the 2025 campaign, things were looking really good for a couple of weeks ago. And after the recent losses to ACFC and Louisville, I think it's fair to say we're looking at an improvement, though, from 2024. Now, the team has played an exciting brand of attacking soccer while also giving up a significant number of goals. What's your assessment of the season so far as you're about to hand the team over to new coach Alexander Straus?
Yeah, I think, to sum it up in a nutshell, it's has to be expected. Now, obviously, we would have loved to not have conceded as many goals, but we're really happy and proud of the fact that we've been able to score significantly more amount than last season. Obviously, looking back a few games, we went to Orlando and for 70 minutes were exceptional. You don't get points for being exceptional for 70 minutes. That's what we kind of went into the Washington Spirit game being really mindful of. Came out there with all 3 points in a really difficult environment, rolled into the Utah game. And, that was the most unique experience I think anyone will ever go through. And then the last 2 games, obviously, we've had some key personnel missing and we've had to shift some pieces around. So I think we're really excited to get through this international break, welcome Alex into the group and continue building on this Angel City identity where we've got massive attacking threat, but we've also got to couple it with, defensive resilience.
Of course. Now, some people may not know that you were actually their interim head coach not long ago, having previously worked under Becky Tweed. Since being interim head coach yourself, you've worked under Sam Lady, and now you'll be working under the new and permanent head coach, Alexander Straus, who we just mentioned before. Could you tell us how your role has shifted since the end of last season? And also, how have the players responded to such a unique situation?
Yeah, I think when Coach Becky Tweed was let go at the end of last season, I was asked to step into that intermediate role, just really to be a steward for the club while they filled the position. I knew from the get-go that they were looking for someone from outside the club with really high-level experience, with a winning record on the global scale, and I didn't have that experience. I don't have that experience yet, so I knew it was temporary. As the start of pre-season grew closer and the club still hadn't filled that position, because to get someone of that quality, it takes time, right? So I was fully aware that it could take another 6 months, and it almost has. But for me to be able to be in my permanent position at the start of pre-season, the decision was made for me to, regain my kind of head assistant coach position and bring Sam in as an interim head coach. It's really, really difficult to keep that role fluctuating through the course of the season. To go from an assistant to a head coach back to an assistant, it's really disruptive. So I can appreciate and totally understand why the club kind of put me in my permanent role straight away to start this season. I think it's led to a bit more steadiness in the group, less change because there's already enough change. So I think that's why it was done. And I mentioned this before, to be successful in this league, you have to be adaptable. You've got to be flexible. You've got to be willing to adjust to change.
Sounds like a key lesson for life just in general, regardless of professions.
Stay alert.
But you're absolutely right. Now, we've mentioned new coach Straus. He'll be joining from Bayern Munich from Germany shortly. But assuming there's already been communication between Straus and the technical staff, is there anything you can share about your impression of him so far and the influence he might already be having on training sessions, as well as the lineup and technical or tactical decisions on game days?
There hasn't been any of that involvement so far. I think the club's been really intentional to keep Sam the boss until he's not. So that's been really intentional by the club. There's been a lot of conversations behind the scenes about how he's going to integrate, how the staff are going to integrate once he's here. He's been watching training sessions. He's obviously been watching games and making a lot of notes on players and personnel. So the transition, we assume and hopeful, is going to be seamless.
There's one question we absolutely have to ask you on behalf of all Angel City fans. With Sam Lady suspended, you were acting head coach when Savy King had to be taken to the hospital in the game against Utah. Obviously, since then, she's had heart surgery. I mean, like, how's she doing, and what's the impression been thus far? Is there anything you can share with the ACFC faithful?
There's no new updates. Just I can reiterate the fact that she's doing well, and she's really looking forward to coming back to the training ground and seeing everyone. I'm sure everyone will be delighted to see her.
Oh, absolutely. On behalf of all of us at Soccer and 60, of course, we wish her all the best. Now, there was a bit of a debate recently over whether or not Kristen Press should be in the starting lineup for Angel City. Well, we all saw that incredible goal that Kristen scored off the bench against Utah, but why don't you give us a more educated take on what you've seen from her as a super sub and maybe also what she adds to the team in terms of her experience, her presence, and her leadership?
Yeah, against Utah, we needed both, right? We needed her leadership and her experience and her technical quality. And she mentioned it after the game. At halftime, we were walking back out onto the field and we were side by side. And I turned to Kristen and said, Kristen, I think you can unlock this game for us. And she said, on the right or on the left? And I said, well, Alyssa's having a great game on the left. She's beating a defender almost every single time. So I'm thinking about putting you on the right. So just keep an eye on the tendencies of their left back and how you think you might be able to break their low block. So obviously I didn't think the impact would be quite as immediate as 23 seconds, but that's why we put her on when we did. Utah was sitting off in a low block. We needed a little bit more experience. Obviously she's, having played for the US, has faced a low block probably for 50, 60 games out of her international career. She knows how to beat it. Little creativity, little flair, a little unpredictability. And that's what she brings. Her quality is, I've said this before, is inevitable. And we just want to make sure that we're using her for the most impact that we possibly can.
And yes, she's been very impactful. It's actually been a lot of fun watching her at this part of her Angel City career. It's been fantastic. Now, moving on from a legend and a veteran of the game to yet another exciting young player on Angel City, the club recently announced the signing of 23-year-old Icelandic attacker Svendis Jonsdottir from Germany's Wolfsburg. If you don't mind, talk a bit about her profile as a player and about what she adds to the team.
Yeah, you had Mark Parsons on the show not long ago, and I'm not sure if he spoke a little bit about trends and common threads between last year's top four finishes in the NWSL, but pace and speed to goal, especially in transition, was one of the key factors for success last season. And she fits that profile. She's going to allow us to be even more threatening going forward, even more threatening in transition. She has experience at the international level. She's played in Champions League games. So for such a young player, she's got some vast experience, some really needed experience and potential leadership on the pitch. She can play anywhere across the front, which leads to us being, less predictable, gives us more variety in our attack. But the pace to goal, speed on the dribble, technical quickness, something we're really looking forward to adding to the group.
I mean, I think it also helps the fact that she played in the Frauen Bundesliga. I mean, Coach Strauss obviously saw her at her time at Wolfsburg when he was at Bayern. So that's also going to be really interesting. And speaking of which, it's kind of hard to believe that at 23 years old, Jan's daughter is older than 5 major contributors with Angel City. I mean, you got Kennedy Fuller, Giselle and Alyssa Thompson, Savy King, Riley Tierney. They're all younger than her. And Macy Hodge is only older by about a month. From a coach's perspective, how does it differ working with a young team like this? Is there anything you need to pay special attention to?
There's lots of things, it's for many of them, it's their first year, second year. They're still novices in the pro game, and managing your bodies throughout long seasons of travel is something that every young player has to get used to. The bright side of having so many young players is they are so eager. They are so hungry to learn. They are extremely coachable. They come with prior experience, yes, but they're very open to the things that we want to do. They're also vocal, all of them in their own way. And it would be very easy for young players to step into a group as experienced as ours with the likes of Kristen and Sid LaRue and Ali Riley and feel a little bit intimidated, but testament to the group that they've been able to come in, they've been able to be themselves, they've been able to show why they are here, because they're all here for a very specific reason, and they've been able to show those qualities. I think at one point early in the season, every contributor to our goals were under the age of 25. I think it was through the first 3 or 4 games.
Coach, that's all fantastic insight, and I certainly appreciate it. And I know you're taking a lot of time out of your day to spend with us. I think we're about 14 or so minutes into this. So I just have one final question for you. Some would say a lot of Angel City's games this season have been what you'd expect from a young roster, including arguably the recent 3-2 loss to Louisville. Tons of possession, some excellent energy going forward, lots of forward shots on both sides. But in the end, a couple of lapses in concentration certainly make the difference. Would you agree that perhaps there is a connection to that lack of experience, or do you have a different take on why it wasn't quite enough in this particular game?
I think it's one contributor. Game management is certainly something else. And if you haven't experienced those types of games, if you haven't experienced going a goal up in a really loud home environment, if you haven't experienced a team pressing in a certain way or coming out and defending in a certain way, it's difficult to expect all those young players to make the right decision for 90 minutes straight. There are going to be lapses, and I've heard it being said, and it's very true that the team that makes the least errors usually wins the league, and that's really true. But again, every one of these experiences, if we can avoid doing them again, if we can avoid making the same mistakes again, and we learn from them and grow from them, what an experience it is that these youngsters are having right now. And going into the second half of the season, if we can avoid making the same mistakes again, we'll be golden.
Absolutely. The youngsters are having a good time, and they're very successful. And Angel City's been a lot of fun to watch. So congratulations to everything that's occurred thus far and what's going to happen down the road. We're really looking forward to big things out of Angel City. And thank you so much for your time. We wish you all the best, and lots of luck, Coach.
Thank you very much.
An excellent interview, and I'm glad she didn't maul me on the way I pronounced her first name, Scarf. Apparently, there's a way to say it here, but obviously the Welsh have a way to say it as well, and I'm glad I rolled my R's.
Listen, anytime you can get in trouble with somebody, I'm all for it. So, Eleri, come right at him if you need to. Perfectly fine.
Excellent. All right, so with that being the case, let's talk some Empire Strykers, folks, some Empire Strykers. Now, we've said time and time again that the season is over, but Strykers had some action. As we talked to Andy Reyes last week, the USA World Mini Football team was out in Baku, Azerbaijan for this tournament. When we talked to Andy Reyes, they had just come off a 4-2 loss against Bosnia and Herzegovina. The U.S. would have goals scored by Chad Vandergriff, a defender of the year in the MASL, currently of the Kansas City Comets, and Ian Bennett. You want to talk about a Mount Rushmore? Ian Bennett certainly belongs on that in the Major Arena Soccer League. USA would have a day off before they would take on Poland. That would be a 0-0 match. Brian Orozco, Empire Strykers keeper, would have a clean sheet in that case. And then, no, this is not an Ali G segment. No, this is not Borat related. Yeah, and I know that might be a little, I don't know. you don't think oil right away when you think Kazakhstan or minerals. You think Borat. And so why I bring up Kazakhstan? Because the U.S. unfortunately lost 5-3 to Kazakhstan in their final match of the group stages. Although they would get goals, 2 of them by way of Justin Stinson and former Empire striker and Ontario Fury midfielder Jesus Pacheco. Kazakhstan was very tough, and the USA could not dispose of them. As a result of that, their hopes at winning the World Mini Football World Cup are dashed. And Scarf, I don't know if you knew this. I mean, the tournament's still going on, but the defending champions, Romania.
Hey, that's good for you. I know you've got some Romanian heritage for sure. Look, I think what sticks out for me about the tournament, obviously, the U.S. crashing out much earlier than they thought they would. But let's talk rather selfishly. A great showing by the Empire Strykers who played in that. You mentioned the brace from Stinson. You mentioned the clean sheet from Orozco. Look, we're going to hear and talk an awful lot about indoor football over the next week and a half, 2 weeks or so. You're certainly going to talk a lot of indoor football over the next week and a half, 2 weeks or so. So it's great to see our boys from the Inland Empire out at Toyota Arena really showing up and showing out in that tournament with their country across their chest. That's got to be the coolest feeling in the world as a professional athlete.
Oh, for sure. And you got to check highlights of that World Mini Football World Cup because it's pretty cool. And you have some really talented teams from parts of the world that don't obviously compete in the outdoor world as much. I mean, Kazakhstan, we haven't seen them in a World Cup. Romania, I don't think we've seen in a World Cup since the boys bleached their hair after that 1998 World Cup run. That was a fun one, but a lot of action to be had there. But that World Mini Football World Cup, was very good preparation because starting on June the 4th, going till June the 9th in Cary, North Carolina, the 3rd annual TST tournament is going to be held at Wake Med Park. Now, the TST in its 3rd year, if y'all follow the basketball tournament, that tournament there, this is a spinoff of it. So really cool tournament. Dominated by players from the major arena soccer league on a macro scale. In fact, the last 2 years, it was won by teams that consisted of MASL talent. Last year, most recently, La Bombonera, which for lack of a better phrase, the Chihuahua Savage, the back-to-back Ron Newman MASL Cup champs. And the year before that, Newtown Pride, who had their head coach, Onua Obasi. Does that name ring a bell? Of course it does, because he's the MASL defending coach of the year, and he's going to be back with Newtown Pride coaching. Scarf, the Strykers have a lot of talent that's going to feature in this tournament. Let's look at the announcement. West Ham, that's right, the Hammers, playing out of London Stadium, the Eastsiders. West Ham is going to feature Justin Stinson, Robert Palmer, Brian Orozco, and Clayson DeLima. The cool aspect about Justin Stinson being able to participate with West Ham is he played with that youth academy when he was younger. So what a cool 180 full circle story for the Stinger himself. West Ham, a lot of MASL talent. Anton Ferdinand, a couple other West Ham legends. But that to me is going to be a team to watch. Scarf, West Ham, you got to pay some attention to them.
Listen, I loved them in Ted Lasso. Now you're telling me there's going to be a TST team as well? Let's go. I just riled up all of the European football fans by bringing up Ted Lasso and West Ham right now. But yes, look, any excuse I have to root for these Empire Strykers boys, incredible. I am shocked, Billy. You have not brought up one team first. I know we love our Empire Strykers around here, but there's a Hoosier Army team in the TST, and I don't know if you've heard Philly talk for longer than 15 minutes without him bringing up the fact that he went to IU, but I would think whether it's Borussia Dortmund or Wrexham or Atletico Madrid or Club America or West Ham, all these huge names that are bringing teams to the TST, you got to have a special place in your heart for Hoosier Army.
Oh, yeah, they were in the Final Four last year. Zach Duke was a part of that Hoosier Army squad. So, yes, of course, a team consisting of Indiana University soccer alums. Of course, I have a soft spot for that. I mean, plenty of teams that I could have a soft spot for. Another team that has a lot of Empire Strykers talent is Bumpy Pitch. Family friendly, I know, but I said Bumpy Pitch. Alan Perez will be there. Andy Reyes will be on that team. Brandon Gomez, Momo Guy. They're going to be on Bumpy Pitch. Pay attention to them. La Mexicana Football Club, based out of New York City. They're going to have Randy Martinez and Garrett Bloom. And by the way, Garrett Bloom is still on the list for highest goal scorers in a TST tournament. He did that against the likes of Chris Toth when he was on Sneaky Fox. In fact, it was the TST that brought Garrett Bloom out into the eyes of the MASL. So he will be on La Mexicana along with Randy Martinez. Soccer Central / Saturdays Football. Y'all know Saturdays Football. Scarv and I know it very well. We've spent an awful lot of time and money in Saturdays Football. They're going to have Walter Diaz. Walter Diaz should shine in this tournament as he did play for the Cuban national futsal team. Those futsal skills will come very much in handy in the small-sided game. And then we've got, of course, Newtown Pride that is going to feature Empire Strikers head coach Onuo Basi and Leo Espinosa, a late signing for the Empire Strikers, played 9 games or so, but man, did he have an impact. Chilean national, this kid is very talented, and we're going to get to see him shine. I'm so excited. And, the one team, though, Conquefa buddy, former Empire Striker, Stefan Mijatovic, who was all tourney. It should be fun.
Are we not talking about Giuseppe Rossi of Villarreal CF, the former Ajuri? What about Luis Nani of Nani FC, Miguel Layun playing for Club America, Danny Drinkwater and Bakari Sacco and Tom Huddlestone for Pasha Luxury FC, and the Atomic Ant makes his return, Sebastian Giovinco for Quick Goal FC. Philly, the names in this are huge. We know Pat McAfee are going to bring people out. I do see Marco Fabian listed for Boca Dallas, but I don't know. Maybe you know.
No,
something
you're absolutely right. I was saving the best for last. Boca Dallas, which is kind of a spin-off of La Bombonera. Yes, Marco the Magnificent, Marco Fabian, Boca Dallas. So we've given you the rundown of MASL talent from the Empire Strikers. So again, the tournament starts June 4th through the 9th. Head on over to TST7v7.com for the schedule. The games are going to be on ESPN Plus and on YouTube, and yours truly has 19 games to call. So don't bother me for the next week, y'all. I'm calling 19 games. All right, now we can move on over and talk about the LA Galaxy. Scarf, the Galaxy went down to take on SDFC at Snapdragon. Another heartbreaking loss at the death for the defending champs. They would go down 2-1 by way of a goal from Luca Della Torre. Diego Facundes would score the first goal of the game, but a minute later, Luca Della Torre would score. And then Chucky Lozano, 90 plus 5th minute, would get the go-ahead. Is SDFC that good, or is the Galaxy just really that bad and snake-bitten?
Listen, so far it's yes to both of those things. San Diego FC enjoying a very good maiden voyage in MLS right now, ahead of LAFC, ahead of Galaxy, in the top 4, set to host a home playoff game if the season were to end today, which is the dumbest thing in the world because it doesn't. But that being said, it's got to be hard for the LA Galaxy supporters and fans as their club finds just new, improbable ways to continue this streak. They lose against San Diego 2-1 on the road at the death from Chucky Lozano, which, by the way, Andres Dreyer with an absolute dime on that ball. That was a beautiful play from Dreyer to Chucky Lozano. What Emiliano Garces was doing on that ball, I have no idea. They just couldn't even hold the lead for that long. Essentially off the restart of the Fagundes goal is when Luca Della Torre scores. And crazily enough, Philly, a loss at the death to make it 15 matches winless to start the season wasn't even the big story. When you do things that the Daily News and the New York Post pick up at the end of a match, you know it is officially silly season. And look, I don't put this one at all on the LA Galaxy supporters. I know there was some stuff that had happened maybe a match or 2 or 3 ago, but none of that should matter when the San Diego FC supporters come into what should be a protected Galaxy supporter section. And look, it was a scene out of Braveheart when they asked Mel Gibson, "Where are you going?" "I'm going to pick a fight." That's exactly what those guys from San Diego FC did. And it blew my mind. In the middle, out in the open, in your own stadium. That is a black eye for sure on San Diego FC.
Yes, and there's a couple factors from what I heard through the social media vines. Apparently, one of the supporters groups from the Galaxy stole one of the flags from a supporters group from San Diego. Then at Snapdragon recently, they had the flag that was stolen. They were waving it upside down. That's what prompted the San Diego FC supporters to go out there and do that. What it all boils down to, though, is a common theme with the two LA teams now going to Snapdragon, is the fact that the people running Snapdragon's security are completely inept. No security. You've seen the videos between the drama that happened with LAFC and now with the Galaxy. Where are the security guards? They're on the back of milk cartons, completely missing. You're going to tell me that they haven't been warned? I'm sure the Galaxy front office spoke to the people at Snapdragon. I'm sure LAFC did too. Are they that pretentious and naive to think, oh, we got this? No, you ain't got ish, because this continues to happen. And while the supporters are doing their thing, battling with one another, this is totally on Snapdragon's inept security, garbage security down at that stadium. They got to do a better job protecting people.
Yeah, look, there was a heavy police presence after the match. That's for sure. The police were able to clear it out. Look, you kind of wonder sometimes too. It's absolutely ridiculous, though, that these people who are making $15 an hour are being asked to step in front of punches by drunken supporters from both sides. I don't know. I get it, right? It's their job. They've got the yellow shirts on. They've got the supervisor vests on, whatever it might be. But I don't know if at minimum wage, I'm stepping in front of a 2-on-2 or a 3-on-3 or a 5-on-1 fight. The stuff that you hate to see is when women and children get wrapped up into some of that stuff. That was what came out of that. It was really rough. Ultimately, an excellent police response outside the stadium by San Diego PD. Not enough of a response inside the stadium for sure. But a rough one as Galaxy heads down to San Diego for the first time. Something that certainly, Philly, wasn't a first time. How about the 86th time of the Cali Classico in Major League Soccer's regular season? Galaxy taking on San Jose at home. And again, riding a win streak is not something anyone has been able to say about the Galaxy this season. How about a 4-match win streak and a 7-match unbeaten streak going in to the match against San Jose? But unfortunately, finding another way to do it, the streak runs to 16.
Yeah, I mean, the last time San Jose beat the Galaxy was in July of 2022. And this is the 103rd Cali Classico, period, all games included. And it would be a return for Bruce Arena, who obviously comes in to Carson with a team that, well, is vastly improved upon from last season. In fact, they led Major League Soccer in goals scored going into this game, and they've got the likes of a Christian Espinoza who leads Major League Soccer in assists. Unfortunately, no Chicho Arango, who's been one of their best goal scorers. But another returnee, somebody that the Galaxy discarded, a person by the name of Preston Judd. He would obviously have an impact in this game a little later on. The Galaxy, again, continuing to find new ways to lose. They actually came out playing very well the first 20 to 30 or so minutes. They look good. You thought maybe they can give their home crowd something to dish on, because really there hasn't been anything to dish on since they beat the New York Red Bull in the MLS Cup, which blows my mind still the last time this team won in Major League Soccer.
Look, it was the Duke of Earl Edwards, doing everything he could to keep San Jose in that one. Took a couple balls out of the back of the net. You should have taken a couple balls out of the back of the net if not for his incredible goalkeeping. I mean, at the death against Yoshida a couple times in the first half. But I thought the Galaxy had really unlocked something first 15, 20 minutes with Joseph Paintsel over the top. And then you just didn't see it happen all that much after the maybe 15th, 18th minute or so. Gabriel Peck, you mentioned people going on a milk carton. Gabriel Peck, for the majority of that second half, I forgot he was out there, which should never happen with a player of his caliber. Galaxy able to avoid the big gaff, right? They didn't commit a foul in the box or pass the ball to the other team. But unfortunately, it still would be a poor result. I thought that Mateus Nascimento had a decent first MLS start for himself, and I liked what Greg Vanney did, bringing players like Mickey Yamane and Christian Ramirez, and of course Diego Fagundes, who had led the team in minutes and had started every match that he had played in so far this season, off the bench, did everything they could to try and get one. I don't think anyone would have been surprised if the first half would have ended 2-0 or 2-2. There were lots of opportunities for both sides. One of the question marks, though, coming out of it before we talk about the result, Marco Reus going down with an injury. The camera work was so terrible in this one. I have no idea what the heck happened. He just kind of went down right before the hour mark.
Yeah, which sucks because his run of form was solid in the last 6 games. 3 goals, 4 assists. But is anybody really surprised? This has been Marco Reus for a long time right now, which when he was signed by the Galaxy, I was surprised that Will Kuntz & Co. went after him considering his injury-plagued career. I am not at all surprised that he gets subbed off. It's unfortunate because he really was a catalyst for their performance against LAFC, but that wouldn't be the case. 74th minute, though, that name Preston Judd, what did he contribute in the 74th minute, Scar?
Oh, man, what a dime. That's what he contributed, a dime. On the foot of Husseini Buda. Husseini Buda is one of those players that San Jose had looked at for a season or two and went like, man, if we can just get this guy to break out. Well, they had him going down the left side a couple of times and prying, but it was when they moved him more centrally, a beautiful pass from Preston Judd, and Buda just straight beat his 2 men to the ball in the back of the net. 74th minute, I think it was, right?
Yep.
And just finding new ways. Galaxy, unfortunately, now make it 16 in a row without a win to start the season.
Awful stuff. For San Jose, they've already improved upon last year's record. Look, the worst record in Major League Soccer belongs to DC United. 2013, they would have 3 wins, 24 losses, and 7 draws, and they would finish with 16 points. The lowest points, though, was courtesy of the 1999 New York, New Jersey Metro Stars, now known as the Red Bull, 15 points. In that season, though, going back to DC United with the 3 wins, they had 16 points, a minus 30 goal diff. They only scored 22 goals and conceded 52. Are the Galaxy en route for that? I don't know. Stay tuned for what's continuing to be a historic season in a negative way for the Galaxy. All right, that being said, let's move on over to the USL. Let's talk about the boys from below the orange curtain. Orange County SC would take on the Colorado Switchbacks in a USL Western Conference bout, if you will, the battle of the mid to bottom part of the table. And hey, Orange County in front of their supporters, in front of a fun crowd, would give the crowd something to be cheerful for during Memorial Day weekend. 3-1 win. Very convincing performance by Orange County.
Yeah, great performance by Orange County over the Colorado Springs Switchbacks.
Yes, you keep forgetting that.
Listen, just real quick pause. If you've never been out to their stadium in Colorado Springs, it is an absolutely beautiful little stadium out there in Colorado Springs. Really fun. Got a great tour when I was there. Just one of those great places that you want to see a lower level soccer match in the United States. So make sure you head out there. But look, you're absolutely right. Now 6th in the Western Conference and finding a little bit of momentum. I got to check and see what happened in that Phoenix-Vegas match that might affect the standings a little bit. But look, this is a club searching for goals, figuring out their attack on the fly. They had just 10 goals in their first 9 matches of the season before they hung 3 on the Colorado Springs Switchbacks. Look, they're still looking for a real talisman, right? Just one player averages essentially more than 1 shot per match, let alone goals. But what you like to see is what they were able to do in all phases in this one. They defended very well and scoring goals in different aspects, different ways. Chris Higard in the 28th minute, former Galaxy prospect Cameron Dunbar in the 61st, and Mohamedou War in the 90th +3. An overall fantastic effort. For Colorado Springs, it was Anthony Fontana providing all the action, as he not only scores the goal, but gets sent off with 2 yellows, which make a red. So down to 10 men. It is Colorado Springs giving up the late goal to make it 3-1. But a really fun-looking offense for one of the first times this season for Orange County SC.
Absolutely. And look, it was a good result. Look, it's been a challenging season for Danny Stone and company. But with the 13 points, they're really not out of it in the grand scope of it all in the USL. I mean, they're just 3 points behind Phoenix Rising. They've got an upcoming contest against Monterey Bay FC, although that's going to be something that's near and dear to my heart, Jägermeister. And by Jägermeister, I mean the Jägermeister Cup. I mean, they're still very much in the conversation. All they need to do is just get on a solid run, keep up with this consistency. We know the talent's there. I believe in head coach Stone's philosophy and what he did towards the end of last season. It hasn't completely carried over now, but this is a team that has the capabilities of finishing on the upper echelons of the Western Conference in the USL Championship. And hopefully they get off now on a good start, not a start, but a good momentum. I mean, they had tough results these past couple of weeks, but this next upcoming game against Monterey Bay FC in the USL Jägermeister Cup. And by the way, I love the fact that Hunter Master, which is what Jägermeister means auf Deutsch, is participating in this. I feel like I haven't seen Jägermeister campaigns and commercials in quite some time. Not since I was in college. Not since I used to bathe in my Jägerator in the fraternity house.
Look, what I love about the Jägermeister Cup, too, is it's USL Championship and USL League One. So you get these clubs, these aspirational clubs to try to make it up to the championship. It's so much fun that they get a shot at the big boys in USL. Who knows how that's going to play out when USL starts their promotion and relegation? That's going to be super fun. But look, you're absolutely right. When it comes down to OCSC playing in this Jägermeister Cup, it's another reason for them to continue to work on that offense so that they can, hey, look, you mentioned that terrible DC United team. They took home the U.S. Open Cup that year. They were so bad. Even if it's not going well for OCSC, they have a chance to take home the Jägermeister Cup. Oh, again, they're fine. That being said, I just want to give a quick shout out to Pedro Guimaraes, who was called into the U.S. Youth National Team under 17s. He plays for OCSC. Some big names in that one: Caven Sullivan, Julian Hall, Jude Terry. So shout out to OCSC's own Pedro Guimaraes for making the U.S. Youth National Team under 17s.
Absolutely. All right. So, yeah, that USL Jägermeister Cup match Saturday, May the 31st at 7 p.m. Have multiple screens on because LAFC is going to be playing Club America at that same time. Monterey Bay FC hosts Orange County Soccer Club in the USL Jägermeister Cup. All right. So now that brings us to the best 11. And if you're new to the show, welcome. If you've been around again, welcome back. What best 11 is a list that we come up with here at Soccer and 60. It's for the best performances for all the teams that we cover on the show. Your LAFCs, the Galaxy, the Empire Strikers, Angel City, and of course, Orange County. So when they're up in full effect and running, this is where we talk about them. So let's go through that list. Goalkeeper, Novak Mitrovic for Galaxy in his performance against San Jose. Part of me always cackles when I say his last name because Mich in Romanian are these little meatballs things. So anytime I want to talk about Novak, I just think of meatballs. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I like Mich. And apparently the San Jose Earthquakes like Mitrovic. As far as the defenders are concerned, Eddie Segura, Aaron Long, and Sergi Palencia for their efforts against Montreal, Club de Foot Montreal. I don't see how or why because, that was a meh result. But anyway, we can talk about that. Midfielders, we got Chris Hagard. We got Nico Benalcazar, Kevin Partita, Orange County Soccer Club representing. Now that's the team that should be really recognized this week because they won. Then, of course, Marky Delgado, our captain, for his performance against the Foot Clan. Igor Jesus, Alyssa Thompson for her performance against Louisville. And for the forwards, and yes, we know we sometimes switch things around where we'll have forwards and midfielders. In some cases, we move things around. The only thing that's non-negotiable is the goalkeeper. Diego Fagundes for his goal for the LA Galaxy in the 40th minute down at Snapdragon Stadium. Scarf. Let's chat about this list really quickly. I don't see Riley Tiernan on here, and I'm really bummed. I needed to see some Riley Tiernan on this list.
The old 3-6-1. I'm pretty sure that's what Galaxy played when they had Zlatan Ibrahimovic up top. Terrifying to see three LAFC defenders in the back because when LAFC goes to three in the back, we know what that means out at BMO. But look, not having Riley Tiernan is one thing. What the heck does Olivier Giroud have to do to finally make a best 11? Look, I'm all for Diego Fagundes. Riley Tiernan should absolutely be there. But Olivier, we've been harping on Olivier Giroud match after match after match after match. And finally, the clock strikes midnight. Olivier scores. And where is he? On the bench, along with Nathan Ordaz, Marco Royce, Joseph Paintsel, Madison Hammond, Miyabi Maria, Riley Tiernan, Giselle Thompson, and Cameron Dunbar, Denny Bawanga, and Nathan Ordaz as well. I don't care how many good performances are. Our producers in our ear about there were too many good performances. Olivier Giroud puts butts in seats, or at least we'd like to think he does. He belongs on that best 11.
I absolutely agree. And we've been joking about how he's been on that milk carton. You talked about the clock struck midnight, and yes, he's a pumpkin as far as the Soccer in 60 best 11 goes. So Novak Mitrovic, yeah, I guess you can say he kind of deserves to be there because he only allowed, one goal against San Jose? All right, I'll take that. But yeah, that's a good one. 3-6-1. I hadn't thought about that with Zlatan. But anyway, folks, that's all the time that we have for this show. Just want to say thank you so much again for tuning in, whether it was on 1490 AM, KMAT 98.1 FM, and much of the Inland Empire, the Empire Strykers Instagram or YouTube page. And if you want to happen to not want to look at us because we have Faces for Radio, you can catch us on demand at the Empire Strykers with a Y. YouTube later on. I did say Faces for Radio. And, of course, your major podcasting platforms. Just search for Soccer in 60. On behalf of myself, Philly, the Scarf, Gunner, Christian, Timmy K when he comes back, and Nina, thanks again for tuning in. Soccer in 60. TST, I'll be gone next week. Tune into that and enjoy your weekend, folks. Soccer in 60. We out.